Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
May we be nurtured together. May we be nourished together. May we strive together. May our learning shine. May we not quarrel. Okay, in the previous verse, verse 36, Krishna answered Arjuna's question, which was how to handle a wandering mind. The problem of a wandering mind, we said, is called vikshepaha, which is the problem of restlessness that we all experience in regards to the associated objects in our life. This means that whatever object is associated with your presence, with your life, then that object will likely disturb the mind when something goes wrong with that object or you have a certain relationship with that object. The solution given, viveka, and the second was vairagyam. What this means is, we said, develop an interest in the subject matter of, or the object of meditation. So how do you develop an interest in something? By reading about it, by entertaining thoughts about it, by finding time during the day to get entertained about it, to bring it into your life as often as possible. You know this from your own experience. The more you associate it with something, the more often and the more regularly, is it not true that you naturally start to form a very intimate relationship with it, and everything else starts to fade out? Yeah. So one of them was reading books and talking about the glories of the subject matter. Talking about it to whom? We do not talk about to those who are not asking, only to those who are on the same page. Because we do not impose the teachings onto others. We have no right to say that we're better than anyone else. So this is to keep in mind. So if someone's in Buddhism or Christianity and you think somehow that Advaita Vedanta is 10,000 years ahead, we have no right to say, you should maybe go to Advaita Vedanta because what you're doing is good, but it's a stepping stone. You can't say that because they need to discover that for themselves. The second part of how to develop an interest in a subject is through satsang. Krishna did not mention this, but this is a very important aspect of developing interest for the subject matter. Sat means truth and sang means company or community. So this means that you are hanging out in a community whose subject matter is the truth, which means that Sangha influences you whether you like it or not. Why? Because whatever your friends value, knowingly or unknowingly, you begin to value also. Did you notice that? Also, Shankara in Bhaja Govindam said in verse 9, the company of satsang leads to vairagyam, which is detachment and dispassion. So what does the satsang cause you to detach from? Whatever is not in the subject matter of the satsang. So this means if you hang around in the community that speaks about the truth, who you are, then anything that is not in relation to that will naturally start being disassociated from in your mind. And you will start getting associated to the truth. Satsang leads to dispassion, and dispassion leads to freedom from delusion. Why does it lead from delusion? Okay, why do you detach from the world? Yeah, okay, freedom, but there is an aspect of it that does not bring you value. In other words, and those things that I associate with which do not bring me value, is it not true that they're actually wasting your time? So in other words, and what, they're deluding me, thinking they're important, they're somehow worthy. So in other words, satsang leads to dispassion. Dispassion leads to freedom from delusion. From what? From the unreal, from things that come and go. Nirmohatve nischalatatvam. This is the third line in this verse. In other words, freedom from delusion leads to what? Firmness. Firmness in what? How did this start? Satsang. And what is satsang talking about? The truth. So firmness in the truth. So freedom from delusion leads to firmness in the truth. Firmness in what? In the truth that happens to be the subject matter of the satsang, which is who you are, which is the whole, the total, sarvam brahmaha. And finally, nishchala tattvam jivan muktihi. Firmness of knowledge leads to where? Into freedom from the world. What does it mean to say freedom from the world? Being okay with everything. Not having a need to disagree or agree with anyone because you are okay with the entire world. I'm not even going to say Jivan Muktihi, liberation, even though you know what it means. I'm just going to say from a standpoint of common sense, being okay with whatever shows up. Whether it is, even if someone says to you that Advaita Vedanta is wrong, it's incorrect, it is devil worship, or which you will hear, I've heard it all, believe me. It depends which religion you go to. I'm talking realistically. You will hear all sorts of words. Why? Because Advaita Vedanta is the only school of thought that says there is no difference between you, Ishvara, and the total. This is blasphemy in a certain religion, which I'm not going to mention. Because they say, how dare you say you're the same as God? Okay? So you will hear certain things. And what does it mean to be free? It means you genuinely are not emotionally disturbed, even if it comes from the mouth of those who you care about most, which is your family. Never mind if a stranger says that to you, but it's when your brother, sister, mom, or dad says that to you, that what you're doing, there's something, you know, you need to throw it away. You're wasting your time. If you can be detached from that and generally just look at it as though you would be looking at it, some stranger said that to you, you're on the right track. So, in other words, true firm knowledge leads to what? Freedom from being emotionally disturbed about those that matter to you the most. So, what this means in the satsang aspect is whatever your friends value, you also value. That's true. We all know about this. Unconsciously, we start to associate with the same things and speak like them, do what they do. We start to develop rapport, not only with their physiology, but also with their psychology. Now, what do values do? They create addictions. Whatever you value, you're addicted to. What do I mean when I say addicted to? You repeat it over and over again. In other words, they develop strong grooves in the mind which make us replay that whether we think about it or not. So what happens is after some time of developing these values, what happens? We become addicted and we cannot imagine our life living without those values anymore. Whereas only a year ago, we were totally fine. Now, because this thing's been in my life for a year, suddenly if this thing goes out of my life, I cannot imagine my life being in order without it. This is very common in relationships, right? Someone's with you and you're so attached that you cannot imagine what's it to be like by yourself without this person. And yet we look around and we see those same people who are absolutely free of these things that you happen to be attached to. And you go, you know, they are free and they're not missing anything. So maybe there is a possibility that it is possible to be happy without being attached to anything. Because we observe jnanis, we observe people who are just have nothing and they are so happy that they just don't want anything. So this reevaluates our behavior. So the conclusion is, in one word, satsang equals success. If you want to adopt values which you admire, then start hanging out with those people who share the values which you admire. Because we always learn like babies, we pick up unconsciously, and that is the best way to learn. Forget about words. Words are sometimes extremely ineffective. Just hang around the person and you will naturally consume that behavior and become and think and talk like them. Even in business, if you want to be successful in business, just find a friend who is decently successful, watch how they handle the phone calls, how assertively they make the deals, how they make the transactions, and then you slowly start to integrate that unconsciously and play that back automatically. So, the logic goes like this. Vairagyam, which is dispassion, detachment. Detachment from what? From the lower to attach to the higher. Did you notice that you cannot detach completely? You're always attached to something. So when I say vairagyam, I'm not just saying detachment. It doesn't stop there. There is a silent word or the silent sentence, and it says detachment from priorities which no longer matter to me, values which no longer matter to me, only so that I can attach to values that matter to me. In other words, this passion is detaching from the lower in order to attach to the higher. So the logic goes like this. Vairagyam and viveka. What is viveka? Identifying the real from the unreal. Discerning what is unchanging and what is transient. Active prioritizing, proactive identification of what is my highest priority right now and what needs to be reduced, because we can only do one thing at a time. And you're keeping track of what I need to stick with and what I need to let go. Otherwise, we get too cluttered with too many things in life. So you need to constantly have this vairagyam and viveka, active prioritization. If you don't have these two, meditation cannot be successful. Without meditation, you cannot assimilate this knowledge, nididhyasanam. Without assimilating the knowledge, you cannot get the full benefit of a jivan muktihi. So you see, it goes back to what? Vairagyam and viveka. Therefore, one of the most important qualifications in the entire Shastra, if there's one single word, it would be vairagyam. Because if you have this passion, automatically viveka is going to come automatically. So that was a summary from last week, verse 36, and now let's do verse 37 together. Arjuna uvacha ayatik shraddhayopetaha yoga chalita manasaha aprapya yoga samsiddhim kam gatim Krishna gacchati. Dhyana pratibandhaha, which is obstacles of meditation, have been talked about last week. So by now, chapter 6 should be over. We can all now go home. Be happy. Sorry for the new people. But it doesn't stop there, because Arjuna is now going to bring up an objection. And I want you to share this objection with Arjuna because it's extremely valid and it's going to come up whether you like it or not. And what is Arjuna's objection? What is his pessimism? What does objection mean? He, in verse 37 to 39, will be extremely pessimistic. He's going to say to Krishna, I do not think that I can manage my mind's thoughts. I'm not good enough for this. The solution may work for other people, but it may not work for me. I don't think I am competent enough to get this. Others may get this, but I can't get this. I have more responsibilities. I've got too many things in life. Others don't have as many things as I have. Therefore, it is not my time. I'm too old. My mind is not qualified enough for this. I don't think I will get moksha in this janma. Janma means birth. I think I will actually only get it in the next life. Therefore, I think I'm wasting my time. I'm too busy. I'm a householder. I've got too many responsibilities. I don't think I'm smart enough. I don't think you know me personally, Krishna. I'm unique. I've got unique problems. That's how we all think. See, from our aspect of the self, you always think your problems are unique. But if someone else looks at your problems, they identify that same problem which everyone shares, actually. I mean, of course, Krishna is not going to say, they're not unique, they're not special. They're the same problems I've seen before endlessly. So Arjuna is bringing a lot of pessimism now, and he's just saying, so far, chapter 5 that you've taught me, and including chapter 6, I don't think it's going to work. So despite Krishna's best efforts, this universal problem that Arjuna is speaking applies to most of us. And he's going to now make us more depressed. And I just want you to follow the thread, how Arjuna is going to lead us into this pessimism of the mind. Usually, when a seeker, a sadhaka, is given a prescribed sadhana, like they ask, give me a technique, give me something to do. What usually happens is, when they get into the real practice of that, they quickly discover it's not as easy as I thought. So a lot of thoughts start to now create situations how this is not for me. Being given the sadhana sounded easy, but now that I have to do this, I've realized it's not so easy. And I just don't think I'm strong enough. I'm too tired all day. I work all day. I come home, I don't have any time, and I have to, suit the children, the spouse. I just don't have time for all this. This is not for me. I'll wait out for the next life. I'm just an ordinary person. I'm not special. I'm just a nobody. I'm in Australia. Usually it's the Indian people who get this moksha. The white people, we don't get this, right? So all of these things come into the mind. And the kind of people that really get moksha, I think, are people like Vivekananda, Chinmaya, Ramana Maharishi, Nisargadatta. You can put whatever name you want. Shankara, right? Just keep adding your names. So they get this. You know why they get this? Because they've done lifetimes of work. But me, I just discovered Vedanta when I'm like, what, 40, 50, 20, whatever it is. How am I going to get this? They spend lifetimes on this. Who am I to suddenly imagine myself getting what they spend so much effort in? They lived in the right environment. I was born in a normal family which never talked a single word of spirituality except God in high school, and then only discovered this later, which I had to start from scratch. Remember when Krishna said at the beginning of chapter 6, verse 5, he said, Uthared atmanatmanam natmanam avasadayet. So in other words, he said to Arjuna, never allow yourself to be put down. Never look down upon yourself. Because if you do, this pessimistic nature of the mind is going to win and is going to unfairly take you away, rob you of your right of permanent happiness. Thus, do not attempt to fall for the whimsical and the persuasive patterns of the mind, creating its very convincing, persuasive sales pitches as to why I should not do this. And not only that, but this also destroys the person's self-confidence. Because they look at everyone else doing it, but I'm not good enough. I can't do it because I just don't have the right skill. If this is the case, the truth is not even God can help you. The reason is because if you have already decided to shut the doors, that you cannot be helped, can the Guru or the Shastra help you considering you've closed your doors? Impossible. This is why Krishna in verse 5 said, never put yourself down, otherwise those who are there to help you, and Ishwar is always there to help you, simply cannot enter your door. So keep the door open. This is why also Krishna reminds us constantly the importance of having faith in oneself. Faith simply means, in two words, I can and I will, no matter what. No one's going to tell me that I can't. Just because I'm born means I can. That's the rule. There is no exceptions to this. Now we're going to get on to the next question. What is causing specifically Arjuna's pessimism? Here's Arjuna's logic. Suppose I don't get moksha in this lifetime. Won't I then lose all the benefits of spiritual sadhana which I've gained in this life? Won't it just go out the door in the next life? Which means what? I wasted all my time. That means you spend what, hours and hours coming to class and then it's just gone to nothing. Or will these teachings be brought forward into the next life? That's a fair question. So Arjuna's question is about a person called yoga-bhrashta. What does this mean? A person who put noble, sincere efforts in the previous life and because of certain obstacles, which we will talk about, could not go all the way and therefore shift the eye completely from the body-mind to Atman. So this means a yoga-bhrashta is a spiritually valuing person who could not go all the way in previous lifetime, and because of that they are reborn. You understand what yoga-bhrashta means? A spiritual failure. In other words, a person who is sincere but they failed. So they're not stupid, they're smart, but they still did not go all the way. First thing you need to understand is just the fact that you're trying says a lot about you. Because if you don't try, you don't even pose this question. Right? So if I don't even try to discover happiness, then I'm not even going to worry. So Arjuna's worry is only coming because why? Because at least he is trying. In the same way, a Vedanta student should never feel ashamed or embarrassed to be listening, because the utter respect that comes from the teacher just by you sitting is present. Why is it present? Because you're taking the time out of the busy life to help yourself alone and to see your sameness in all. You understand? So be glad that you're listening, and remember the teacher never looks down upon the student because you could be doing anything else. So therefore, there's a lot of respect coming from the teacher at any moment. So what is yoga chalita manasaha? An aspiring person who didn't succeed in spiritual sadhana. And not only that, but this person has grown out of mainstream religion, means what? Common upasana, common rituals, common prayers, common dualistic bhakti, common puja, common devotion to form Ishta Devata. And not only that, but a yoga-bhrashta, which is described in Yoga Chalita Manasaha, is also one who has pursued jnana yoga. So he's quite an advanced person we're talking about. So that's how Arjuna describes him. Now, why didn't he succeed? Why didn't this yoga-bhrashta succeed? Okay, where's the proof that we didn't succeed? How do you prove that?
Because he's born again.
Exactly. Just by being born in a body, we have proved that we are yoga-bhrashta. In other words, we have done our best, and yet due to some obstacles, we are now born again to get another chance. Now, why didn't he succeed? Ayatihi. Ayatihi means because of insufficient effort. Insufficient, incomplete effort means what? This person put a lot of effort, sincere effort, and despite this sincere effort, they still didn't make it all the way. Therefore, they were born. Now, next question, why is it insufficient? The answer is because of various obstacles. Next question, what kind of obstacles? Look at it this way, even attending the class every Tuesday is an obstacle in itself. It's a lot of effort to actually come here, and out of your life and just sit. But where's the question of revision? See, even revision is necessary because revision is what? Revision of this class is what? It's like literally watering the seeds. Listening to the class is just planting the seed, but revision is literally watering the seed. And contemplating on this knowledge is putting a fertilizer on. That also requires time, does it not? Yeah, it requires, let's be honest, it does require time. So, there are 3 obstacles that prevent our success. The first one is Adi Daivika Pratibandhaha. This means supernatural cosmic forces. What do you mean by that? Sometimes it's not your time. It's not in the highest and greatest good to understand something yet. So this means that you still have some duty to the world, and because of that duty, unfinished business, it is not your time yet. Also, supernatural forces can be something like because even the moon, we'll talk about devatas much later, even the moon is a devata, chandraha devata. So even if when you have the new moon fully shining, it changes people's moods. So it's unseen force affecting what? Your thinking. So suppose it's the full moon, and you come to class, and this is the one class when the teacher said something when it would have changed your life. But because of the moon changing your mood, because of that, you could not understand the fullness of the knowledge. So that's how these supernatural, unseen forces are constantly in there affecting us, and we are not aware of them. Obstacle number 2, Adi Bhautika Pratibandhaha. So this is a environmental, situational circumstances, or your surroundings. This is the most common one. For example, family affairs. Your family requires too much time from you. Your children require too much time from you. Or even your car breaks down, you get married. Then it's game over. Right? So I'm not putting down marriage, but just because it's so delicious and juicy, you're like, it's okay. I'm going to enjoy my little company now, and I'll put this aside later. And what happens, of course, you now see that your spouse demands a lot of time from you. So by the end of the day, you don't have much energy. So the last thing you're thinking about is, let me pull out the scriptures, the shastras. Another common one is you relocate a job. Suppose there's a liquidation of the company, and suddenly you have to relocate yourself alone or with your wife because you guys need to survive. And you look for a acharya over there for some class, no class. In other words, you have gotten your job, but now your moksha has been stripped away by that one single obstacle. The third one is atyatmika. This is personal situations, issues. What do I mean by this? The most common one is disease. Some kind of a disease hits. And when it does, it's a shock to the person. And because it's a shock, it takes them away from this knowledge, because you need to attend to your body. Carnal, the primitive drives always come first. Right? Let's put away the advanced Vedanta. I need to take care of myself. Or skeptical. Suppose something happened and you got cheated in life. Somebody offered you some promise and you didn't get it. And now the skepticism gets carried away and everyone gets painted over by the skepticism. Suspicion. Suppose the person comes in and they're suspicious. Who is this person? I don't know him. Are they telling the truth? So this another obstacle that stops the person from actually sticking around. So all of these obstacles are at play, preventing one's permanent joy, permanent happiness. Or suppose you don't have much faith in yourself, self-confidence. Coming to the class, this sounds too advanced, too intellectual. This is not for me. I need something more in the heart. I need some more, kirtanam or some kind of singing or something. So shraddhaya upetaha. So despite these obstacles, the person is what? Sincere. You've got all of the energy in the world. You are genuinely sincere about your efforts. You have no excuses. You're not that kind of person. You do not have a lack of interest in Vedanta. You value spiritual life, but you couldn't follow through because of what? Of these three obstacles. Thus, kam gatim gachati, the last three words in the second line, which means, so we're going to turn this into a question. Therefore, what does this kind of person then attain in the next life? So let's summarize this. What Arjuna is saying is, I am too busy to get this. What's the point if moksha requires so much effort? He now justifies this pessimism in 38. Kachino bhaya vibhrashtaha china brahmiva nashyati apratishto mahabaho vimudho brahmanah pati. This is Arjuna's logic. Owning two obstacles and these vasanas which have prevented my success in the last life. So owning to that, those three obstacles that we just described, the seeker who did not put sufficient effort into Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam in the earlier Janma, not only did not get moksha in the last life, but also he or she did not perform good karma. And what does good karma do? Brings over into the next life called punya karma. In other words, I not only missed my chance for moksha, liberation, but because I was too busy in this knowledge business, I did not be out there, I was not in the world doing good things for the world, therefore I didn't acquire any good karma. And now, I'm not carrying anything to the next life. Now, what does punya karma do? Because I don't have punya karma, I do not get a ticket to Swarga Loka, heaven. So what Arjuna is describing is, I don't get moksha and I don't get Swarga, I don't get heaven. At least I could have gotten heaven if I did some good effort in the last life. So what does this mean? Ubhaya viprashtaha. What it says is, he or she has fallen from both, which means he has fallen from yoga, which means what? Moksha, and he or she has fallen from karma, meaning what? Swarga. Therefore, what will he now get in the next life? And then Arjuna is going to say, Chinna Brahmiva Nashyati, top line. So it seems to me that this person's condition is like a scattered, lost cloud. A big cloud, can the wind easily disperse the big cloud? It can only blow the cloud. But what happens if a cloud gets torn apart and the wind blows? It easily disperses that cloud into nothing. So this is Arjuna's concern. What does this mean? Therefore, this person who we're talking about does not have strong support of neither jnanam nor dharma. Because, see, Arjuna, remember the last verse, Arjuna is worried, what if this knowledge doesn't get passed over because I failed moksha? So this means I don't even have jnanam anymore. So there's no strong support of jnanam, but I also don't have strong support of what? Dharma. Because why? I did not perform the right actions in the last life. Which means I'm like a cloud. I'm a nobody now. I'm weak. The wind can blow me. The world can destroy me easily. This is another reason why in the olden days, taking sannyasa was not easy as it is today. The reason is because in grihastha ashrama, at least you have family responsibilities. You go to festivals, you're being held accountable by your spouse and your children and your friends. That's the advantage of grihastha ashrama. So in that case, if you're a householder, the mind does not have chance to wander away. Now imagine this kind of person. Okay, what does being in the householder stage imply? I don't have a lot of time for what? Shastra. Because what? Your time is taken by your spouse and your family and your festivals and your invitations. So now imagine this kind of person without a strong foundation of Shastra suddenly leaves his swadharma, and not only that, but doesn't have the guidance of an acharya, of a teacher, of a guru. What's going to happen? What always happens? The mind is going to drop. It's going to start entertaining lower desires. It's going to start entertaining immoral desires, immoral things, if not physically, mentally. Why? Because the strong foundation was not introduced into sannyasa stage. It should have came from the householder, but it was absent in the householder stage. This is why grihastha ashram is actually quite good, because you're being held accountable by your wife or your children. You can't mess around. You put a teenager, today's teenager, in a house, and you go away for a holiday. What usually, not sometimes happens, you see these like big parties, they're like bring all their friends over, they smoke all the weed they can find, they get, alcohol. Why is this? Because nobody's holding them accountable. What is Arjuna's sphere? I'm going to summarize. Vimudho brahmanah pati. The last three words on the last line. If I fail to convert path of Brahmanah, jnana yoga, that means into moksha, into liberation, haven't I been deluding myself all that time in the past life, thinking how I'm, sitting down and listening and I'm really getting somewhere and this is all working, I'm getting the joy walking out of class and I'm feeling like, I've attained something, I've achieved something, I've learned something. Haven't I been deluding myself? Haven't I wasted my time? Verse 39. Etan me samshayam Krishna chetum arhasya sheshataha twadanyah samshayasyasya chetana hyupapadyate etat samshayam chetum arhasi. That's the first line. Arjuna is saying here, Krishna, my fear is real. I am not joking. I'm really experiencing this fear despite everything you have told me so far. You should destroy this doubt of mine. Instead of coming to class and listening to this, I could rather be out there and doing good. At least that way, I'm not going to get moksha, that's fine, but at least I will get punyam. At least, therefore, I will get a good life in the next life or swarga, heaven. You should destroy thus this fear completely, asheshataha, without any vagueness, because my attendance to your class depends on how well you answer my doubt. Why is Arjuna only asking Krishna? Okay, who is Krishna? Ishvara in the form of a person, an ordinary person whose name is Krishna. So Arjuna is asking Ishvara. Why is this? Because this is a question of afterlife. And a human being cannot know what's going to happen in the next life. We do not have the capacity. In fact, we're isolated to this birth only. We don't even remember what happened in the previous life, let alone what's going to happen in the next. We don't even know what's going to happen tomorrow, let alone 5 years from now. In other words, Bhagavan means the giver, Ishvara, is the only karma paladata of this entire universe, which means what? The giver of the fruits of actions. So Ishvara is the only one who gives the fruits of actions and knows what is to be given. We do not know. For example, did you ever do something good for someone and you didn't get what you were expecting? They actually were maybe impolite or rude. It's like, where is this coming from, right? My intentions were honest, they were kind, but totally different opposite result. So you were not expecting that. Exactly. You didn't know. Only Ishwaran is the karma paladata, the giver of the fruits of actions. Finally, Krishna is now about to give an optimistic answer in verse 40. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Partha Naiveha Namutra Vinashastasya Vidyate Nahi Kalyana Krit Kashchida Durgatim Tata Gachati. If Krishna was an Australian, at this point, the first words that will come out of his mouth will be, "No worries, mate." In other words, I said this last week, the first job is to console your friend. It's okay, don't worry. I've got this. I'm going to answer your doubt and don't worry. I've seen this before endlessly. I've heard your question endlessly, so I'm going to answer it for you. Now, after he said, "No worries, mate," he's going to now apply a certain logic, and it's going to go like this. Suppose the person comes to Jnana Yoga, to the highest knowledge, and engages in serious study. That means you're sincere, and attempts Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam, and is moving away from mainstream religion. You've also studied the Gita and the Upanishads. So, this is the kind of person that you are so far. So what the Shastra is saying, Shravanam has two benefits. The first one is Mukhya Palam, primary benefit. And the secondary benefit, the byproduct, Avantara Palam. So what does this mean? What comes to your mind when I say a coconut tree? Instantly, you know what the benefit is. Or even if you think of coconut fruit itself, what benefit comes up? Whatever the primary benefit you were expecting. If it's to drink, that's your primary benefit. If it's to take the coconut, that's your primary benefit. But even if you drink the water or you take the coconut, there are so many other benefits from that final byproduct. You can make like a hat from the coconut. You can make, like bra, suppose you're on an island or something. You can make, a nice rugby package for the men. You can make it for the water, a water collector for the rain. You can play ball with the coconut. You can make a little boat out of the coconut and rope out of the fiber. Yeah, you can and then string it together and then swim in it. You can play a ball with your brother or sister or your child. You can draw a face and feel like you're talking to someone, like some deity that you can worship. So if you think about a coconut, it has endless benefits. So all of these endless benefits are coming out of what? Out of the primary benefit and the secondary benefit you were not even intending. You just got there to take the primary benefit. So this means not only did you get your primary benefit, but there is a secondary benefit also. Another example, suppose you plant a mango tree in your house. Primary benefit is what? Mango fruit. But what's the secondary benefit? Suppose it's a very hot place and the sun is shining in your bedroom and you need to turn on the aircon constantly and you get extra $200 a month for your electricity bills. You get shade, which means it protects the sun. But that wasn't your intention, was it? Your intention was to get the fruit. And so what sooner or later you discover there is indeed something that I haven't thought about, the secondary byproduct benefit extracted from my primary intention. In the same way, Shravanam, Vedanta, primary benefit would be what? Moksha. Secondary benefit would be what? Punya. In other words, you cannot fail whichever way you look at it from. If you have qualifications, vairagyam and viveka, you're discerning, you're constantly seeing what is real and unreal and putting things aside which are just passing. The secondary benefit automatically takes over punya, karma, which is what? Swarga. In other words, listening to this knowledge, the Shastra Shravanam, there is no downfall in this life or the next. That's Krishna's response. Now, pose a question, what is the reason for no downfall? Why is there no downfall? The answer is Kalyana Kritkashchid. What does this mean? Because you are doing a noble action. Are you coming here to hurt someone? Considering that you're doing a noble action, which is called a Mangala Karta, auspicious action. You're coming for what? You're doing an auspicious action to yourself. Listening to the Gita equals auspicious action. Also in chapter 4, we used another word for Mangala Karta, Jnanam Yajna. Worshipping knowledge. What kind of knowledge? Self-knowledge. Jnanam is self-knowledge. If you're worshipping the self, who are you worshipping? Ishvara. You're worshipping the total. That's why we call it Jnanam Yajna. Finally, Nahi Kalyana Krt Kashchit Durgatim Tata Gachati. Such a person does not have a downfall from whichever angle you look at it from. It's not a question of downfall. It's a question of how, in what wonderful ways will I benefit? Okay, let's go to verse 41. Prapya punya kritam lokan ushitva shashwati samaha shuchinam shrimatam gehe yoga-bhrashto bhijayate. Having attended Shravanam, this is Shravanam by the way, listening, and failing to assimilate 100% of this knowledge. That's a possibility. The byproduct is what? Secondary benefit? Punyam, which leads to heaven. Therefore, now we're going to get into the logic, prapya punya kritam lokan. In other words, an unsuccessful Vedantic student who tried their sincere efforts in Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana goes to the same place of those who have done a lifetime of upasanas, sacrifices, yajnas, prayers, devotion, dharmic actions. Just listening to Vedanta gives you the same benefit as those who have engaged in lifetime of hard worship, constant action, doing good for the world, saving the oceans, cutting, saving the trees, just doing the maximum they could. Same benefit. In other words, what Krishna is saying, the unsuccessful student of Vedanta goes to the same place as those. Who are those? The ones who have done a lot of good work. And that is what? They go to Swarga. So this means that the Gita study that we're doing is equivalent to a lifetime of yajna, upasana. Upasana means worship, different kinds of worships. Also, Swami Madhusudana Saraswati, he died in 1640. He's an interesting Swami who started out in Dvaita. He was like a very Dvaita strong devotee. It's like this Advaita is fraud. But of course, we've heard the story a million times before. After sooner or later, you discover the limitations of this Dvaita, of the worshipping forms and seeing how it's all just whatever I see, that's all there is to it, and God cannot be in me. God is over there and I'm over here. So after some time, they always come to this limitation and they discover that it doesn't work. So he converted from Dvaita to Advaita, and he said 1 minute of Vedanta Shastra, Shravanam, is equivalent to 100 years of Upasana. So you could be doing 100 years of ceremonies, like the whole Karma Kanda section of the Vedas. For 100 years, 1 minute of Vedanta listening is equivalent to 100 years of that. Now, you see, it doesn't really matter, whatever logic he used, but if you infer, what does all of these actions do? What do they all do? They just reinforce what? Dvaita, separation. Who are you devoting to? In other words, 100 years of devoting to an Ishvara who is over there, implying what? I don't share the same substance as Ishvara, means what? There's a simultaneous Dvaita in that process. There's another benefit, Ushitva shashwatihi samaha. It's not really a benefit at all from a Vedanta standpoint. All it's saying is, not only does the person go to Loka, to heaven, as a result of listening to the scriptures, but also they get to stay there for a long, long time and enjoy all the pleasures that Swarga has to provide. Actually, I'll just say it right now. Swarga is useless. Why? What begins, ends. You go there, you hang out, you have a good time. There's no aging in Swarga. There's no hunger in Swarga because it's a subtle world. But then what happens? The Upanishads talk about this. You come back to earth and you have to go into moksha business all over again. In other words, you just got a little temporary pause, enjoyed yourself, and came back down to earth. What really happened? Absolutely nothing. However, if your primary benefit was moksha, then you don't go to Swarga. Because why would Ishvara put you to Swarga if your benefit was moksha? Which means what? Ishvara is obligated to put you where? Ishvara means the cause, the ultimate cause. Is obligated to put you into a sustainable environment which will cause the continuity and help you to resume your unfinished business from Purva Janma, from your past birth.
And that's according to your vasanas.
According to your vasanas, yeah. That's the kind of environment you'll get. Now, so therefore, yoga-bhrashta bhijayate. Let's summarize this. The moksha aspirant, the aspiring student of liberation who sees the value, who failed in previous birth, will be reborn. Reborn where? There are two possibilities. The second possibility will be in the next verse, and I'm going to do the first possibility in this one. Shuchi nam shrimatam gehe. So this person will be born in a family who has two attributes. One, who is prosperous, does it say there? And cultured. Shuchina means cultured, religious, noble actions, noble thinking. Dharma is very important in the family. So Shuchina means Dharma, very strong, and they respect and honor the value of Ishvara. Now, the next word, Shrimatam Gehe, means what? Prosperous, which means rich, wealthy. Why is this person born in such a family with these two attributes? There's a reason. Well, first of all, because the family provides you the scope for growing. Now, suppose, for example, can you study the Shastra if you're born in a very poor family who is just barely surviving? No, the reason is because your dad or your mom is going to get the son or daughter to what? To help them out. You need to contribute. In other words, if I'm basically involved in the basic primal needs of the family surviving, then I'm not going to get the chance of thinking about the higher teachings. Try telling a dear homeless person, they had their reasons for being homeless, of course, about moksha. What's going to happen is most likely they will curse me. It's not that I should get offended. I should understand why. Because they're not interested in this. For them, moksha is $20. For whatever they're seeking, that's moksha for them. So in other words, being in a non-prosperous family, there's no chance, or very, very small. But also, just now imagine you're born in a very prosperous family without culture. What's the problem with that? A very rich family without dharma, without religion, without God. I think you know the problem, right? What's going to happen is you're going to then take this money that you inherited most likely, or that comes to you easily because your dad or mom has taught you probably how to be in business, and what's going to get spent in anything other than entails or symbolizes dharma. In other words, nightclubs, self-entertainment, gambling, parties, and so on. Traveling the world for your own self-gratification and so on. In other words, it's counterintuitive. It is better to be born in a poor family who has dharma than in a rich family who has no dharma. Because a rich family can take me even farther away. Because once you're getting your sense gratification with all that money, it's very hard to get out of that world of Hollywood, world of Bollywood, world of red carpet and celebrities and TVs and so on. Now, so you can see why the two specifically are required. So suppose now you're born in a prosperous family and a family which has dharma. How are you going to spend your money then? What's going to happen is you're going to take that prosperity and you're going to use it for what? A good dharmic cause. What does that lead to? Punya karma. What does punya karma lead to? A purified mind. What does a purified mind lead to? Qualifications. What do qualifications lead to? A mind that's able to assimilate self-knowledge. What does that lead to? Moksha. So you can see the order. Prosperous plus dharmic. There is a second possibility of birth, and this is even rarer. This is covered in verse 42. Athava yoginam eva kule bhavati dhimatam etadhi durlabhataram loke janmayadi drisham. Being born in a family of ajnani. So the second possibility of a yoga, remember the word yoga-bhrashta means what? Unsuccessful, spiritual, aspiring person who did not succeed owing to the obstacles that we mentioned. That person, a yoga-bhrashta, is a yoginam kule bhavati. Bhavati means he is. In other words, he is born in a family of jnanis, who may not be prosperous, by the way, because jnanis are not prosperous. They don't care about money. It's just, they just live on a minimum, simple life. But they're not extremely poor. They just live whatever is required, but never more than is required. That's how nature lives. The animals don't take more than they need. They only take what they need. Imagine being born in a family who never taught you how to accumulate, how to have possessions. Is there any chance that you're going to have possessions in having seen or being grown in a family without possessions? Because why? We learn as children, right? In other words, you are born in a very sustainable environment for a sannyasi. You're already a sannyasi. What does sannyasi mean? A renunciate. What does a renunciate mean? I had to renounce. Why? What does renouncing mean? It implies I had something to renounce. But you're born in a family where there's nothing to renounce. In other words, Bhagavan has put you in a place where you are automatically a sannyasi and able to thus contemplate this knowledge without any droppings of the worldly attachments. So it's a very easy journey because you don't have any possessions around you. More possessions, more worries. Why do I say this? Just take one possession in your life. Not only do you worry about that thing, but you also worry about the things which are associated to that thing. So let's say you have a child. You don't just worry about your child. You also worry what kind of friends your child is hanging out with. So there's a huge association of worries by having attachments in life. And a sannyasi who is born in a family of jnani does not have these worries. Therefore, their life is about self-knowledge from the start. Now, dhimatam yoginam. So they're born with wise sages. And what's the advantage of being born with a wise person? You do not need to look for a guru. Just looking for a guru in itself can take endless lifetimes. Who is your guru? In a second possibility, your mom and your dad. Either or both. The birth of this jnani is durlabhataram, meaning what? Rare. But it doesn't stop there. Okay, first of all, why rare? Why do you think it's rare?
There's so many, hardly any jnanis around.
Excellent. That's 10 out of 10. Jnanis are extremely rare, but it doesn't stop there. There are two kinds of jnanis. Most of them are what? Sannyasis. Living a simple life, not interested in marriage, not interested in children, not interested in friends, in society. Why? Because they are happy with themselves. The joy of the world is theirs already. Therefore, I don't need to be married. I enjoy the bliss of marriage through you. I don't need to be smart. I enjoy intelligence through you. That's the thinking of a jnani. But it doesn't stop there. What is even rarer than a sannyasi wise person? What's even rarer is a grihastha ashrama jnani, the one who is a householder. If it happens before marriage, they probably don't get married. If it happens during marriage, then just getting to that stage implies what? You had a very understanding spouse who gave you the time to assimilate this long enough until you captured the knowledge. But not all spouses are that patient. And it's not only between spouses and you, it's also between what? the natural family affairs, which take out time. It's just natural. It takes a lot of time. So what's even rarer is it doesn't stop there, by the way, because you can have a jnani, a householder, who is a partner with someone else, but they're not interested in children. They have to have the desire to have children. But that's very strange, because a jnani has no desire to have children, because your children are my children. So you can see how rare it is. It's very rare to be born, summary, in a prosperous family and a dharmic family, and it's even rarer to be born in a family of wise people. Suppose Arjuna now says, if I get a conducive janma, janma means birth, in the next life, do I have to start chapter 2 all over again? Or do I just continue from chapter 7 from the Bhagavad Gita? What's the deal here? Everything you have understood in this life so far, everything you have grasped, captured, decently understood, that gets carried over to the next life. So what happens is, somehow you get presented with a text and you just find it easy, but other people find it hard. Did you ever notice that in high school, when you were in school, some children actually find certain skills easy and you find it the hardest thing? And then for you find your skill easy, but other people find it extremely hard. Why? Because there's an unseen factor that gets carried over from the Purva Janma into the next life. Thus, in the Vedantic Shastra case, this knowledge is just understood. You feel at home with it. You feel like, wow, I just understand this. I don't know why, but I just do. So the answer is, spirituality starts very early for such a person. Okay, verse 43. Tatratam buddhisam yogam labhate pauruvadehikam yatate chatato bhuyaha samsiddhau kurunandana. Over there in that life, where you are either born in two conditions, remember, in a prosperous and a cultured family, or you're born in a family of a jnani, then tam buddhisam yogam labhate. What happens is the jiva, what is a jiva? A person who associates the self with their body and their mind. The jiva gets associated with the spiritual maturity established in the previous lifetime, or the spiritual knowledge, the spiritual capacity acquired in previous janma. So in other words, your body gets all of the benefits which you have done or you have accrued in the last life. They get transferred into the new body. So meaning in the next life, what happens is you rediscover whatever you have acquired in the previous body, defined by paurvadehikam. What do you rediscover? All of the qualifications that you have established, like what? Your capacity for viveka, that means your capacity of discerning between the real and the unreal, and your intensity of vairagyam. How serious are you about dropping or disassociating from the lower and reassociating from the higher? That strength, that firmness, that confidence that I will disassociate and I'm not going to get engaged in this no matter what, that firmness, that gets carried over into the next life. And all of the understandings that you have gained also gets carried over into the next life. Why this association to the previous body, paurvadehikam? Why? Because according to the Shastra, in the new birth, your physical body alone is different. Your mind is the same. So this means the baby, which is born, is simply taking the mind of whom? The person, whoever that was in the past birth. So when a person dies, what happens? They give up their physical body only. They do not give up their sukshma sharira. Sukshma sharira means what? Their subtle body. I know that I said about a year ago that sukshma sharira dies upon death. There's two aspects to this mentioned in Upanishads. It actually does not die and it does die. What do I mean by this? It has to go somewhere. In other words, where does it go? It recedes into the karana sharira, the causal body, and then upon the new breath, life, it then comes back and expresses what? all of your conditions, all of your samskaras, all your vasanas operate through that same sukshma sharira, that same subtle body. In other words, your mind does not die. Now, what does the mind carry over? All of your punya, all of your papa. What does this mean? All of the good merits you have acquired in the last life, and all of the sins, all of the demerits that we have accrued in our last life. So if you suppose that you've done some real damage to someone and you didn't forgive them and they were damaged for lifetimes, this is going to come back. There is no escape out of this. And even those who commit suicide, there's no getting out of this place. You have to do the proper journey. You can't just end your life. And even if a person does end their life, they simply are born in the same circumstances with the same parents in the same conditions until they themselves get themselves out of that condition. Punya, papa, viveka, and vairagyam all get carried over to the next body, and you could say it travels to the next physical body. And why does this not express when the baby is born? Because the baby is still not matured. The intellect is still not matured. This is why when a baby is born, you see nothing but innocence. But what you're really not seeing is the invisible vasanas, samskaras, that are going to fructify usually between the 12 and 20 plus. This is why we also see in society, if you have a son or a daughter, you usually see their interest starting to develop around 12, 13, 14, like, wow, it's like, I didn't know this was the case. So this is all being now fructified because the mind is starting to bloom due to the aging factor. This also means a mother only gives birth to what? The physical body. A mother never gives birth to the mind, because I know she gives birth to the brain, but remember, the brain is not the subtle body. The brain is just a mechanism to help the subtle body operate. For example, you give birth to 4 children, and then what? They all have different inclinations. Like, where does this come from, right? Now, the parents never watch TV, they never do any religious study, and yet child 1 suddenly takes interest in Shastra. Even in the Buddhist community, they just pick up and they start chanting at 4. It's very common, even at 4. And then child 2, boxing. It's like, where's the correlation here? So these vasanas start getting expressed the more they get older. And that's why these variations are present. If you go to any Vedanta class, the age factor varies dramatically. Because why? The mind blooms at different stages of life. So this is why also you can have an 80-year-old person in a body who's 80 years old and they're still watching TV. Why? Because their mind still hasn't bloomed, or it's still blooming, right? Maybe you gotta wait 1 more year and it's going to bloom and suddenly take interest in some worship, and then it's going to die. So it's going to get 1 year at least of worship, right? So what's the conclusion? The age of your body makes absolutely no difference. Your physical body makes 0 difference about what you know or you don't know, because the body does not reveal the mind, the subtle mind. In other words, you can be, for example, 90 and still be thinking like a 16-year-old, right? Entertaining thoughts of young flesh. Similarly, a person can be 16 and be very wise. The Shastra speaks of 3 types of ages. Every person has 3 types of ages. The first one is Vayaha Vridhaha. What does this mean? Possessing a wealth of age. So every person in the world has these 3. What does age mean? Experience. Did you ever meet someone who's just generally experienced at everything? They're just generally good. Not in particular in anything, but they're just generally like at home. They're like a earthly person. It's almost like they've been here forever. Right? It's just like, yeah, it's normal. I can get things done. I just need to learn how to do things, and I'll do it in no time. So what does this mean? They have a lot of general experience, nothing in particular, but just general experience. The second age is Shila Vrithaha. What does this mean? The person possesses a wealth of character. Did you ever meet someone and you describe them and you say, what a character? right? There's something about them that it's extremely sophisticated in their character. Usually celebrities would be, and actors would be in this, very strong in this category. But we all have certain mixtures of these. And the last one is jnana vrithaha, possessing a wealth of knowledge. Did you ever meet someone and then after finish a conversation with them, or you describe them to someone and you say, this person is just a wealth of knowledge? In other words, they have a strong third category. So, and you can even, and I said this order for a reason, because it actually goes from what? A wealth of general experience builds into, as a result of all of that experience, into a general wealth of character. You can't say, see, in order to be like a character, like a full of life, a full of, like funny, and you can create different, you can bring people together, you need a lot of experience. So that means you've already gone through the strong foundation of the first one, which is the wealth of age. And then as a result of that, you pass on to wealth of character. And as a result of character, you realize that all of these characters are ultimately limiting, and then the person starts to naturally search for what? Knowledge. This is usually, I think Jim Carrey, from the actor, he had the ayahuasca ceremony in you know him? And he totally turned off from the screen because he saw a different dimension. So he was a very strong person in character. And then after having seen a different point of view about his nature, then this wealth of knowledge started to come in, and his attitude changed dramatically. So the whole point is to move from this wealth of age, because that belongs to what? The world, the physical world. Wealth of character, yeah, sure, you're an interesting person, but at the end of the day, the person who's interesting is going to die, and then who knows how you'll be in the next life. Not you, but I mean how the body-mind will be. The you is completely unaffected by all of this. And then wealth of knowledge means what? You just acquire, you're just interested in knowledge. So how do you calculate, for example, your age of the mind? Very easy. How old are you now? Suppose you're 40. So 40 plus, now suppose you died at 90 last life. So 40 plus 90, so your mind is 130 years old, and yet your body is 40 years old. And I just said last life. Now you also got the last life. So you add all that together, and then you got the age of the mind today. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.